Well, good day, everyone. Welcome to my first official YouTube channel vlog, The Cochran Doctrine with Eric Cochran. We'll go ahead and call this my pilot episode, where I'll be introducing myself, tell you a little bit about my background, my family, my beliefs, and how they've been shaped. It's been an interesting year for all of us. I certainly never hesitate to post my opinions on social media, and this past week a former high school friend of mine suggested that I should start a YouTube channel. Having worked mostly in professional driving since graduating from college, I've had many people tell me that I have a great voice for radio. I was one of 4 commencement speakers at my high school graduation, so I'm not afraid to be on stage either. And for those of you who know me best, I'm a very nostalgic person. And going forward, I'll have plenty of personal experiences to share with you pertaining to current political and historical topics that I will be discussing. So starting off with my personal and educational background, I was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1990, where I lived until I was 13 years old before moving to Destin, Florida. As of this past year, I'm a proud new resident of the Tampa Bay area, or Champa Bay, as we're calling ourselves now for obvious reasons. I'm an only child who grew up in the typical, whose parents were the typical small American business owners. In 8th grade, having not liked the move to Destin a year earlier, I was sent to Riverside Military Academy up in Gainesville, Georgia, where I spent the next 5 years, graduating in 2009. I went on to the University of Colorado at Boulder for a year, but left after a not so great freshman year. I came home to Destin, pulled up my GPA at community college between 2010 and 11, and then transferred to West Virginia University in fall 2011, graduating in December 2013 with a history degree. I'm going to move this down just a little bit right here. There we go. Okay. I think that's a little bit of a better angle. So, of course, we're products of our upbringing and how our views are shaped. My parents are both baby boomers. My father grew up in a staunchly Democratic household, whereas my mother's was staunchly Republican. My dad didn't follow exactly the same route, nor did any of his siblings. Over the years, he's certainly voted for both parties. My mom is a Republican who's always been very confidential in her beliefs. As kids, we have the tendency to be more in line with one side of the family, and I've come to say that I have the Cochran genes, definitely resemble my dad's side of the family on the outside, but I've always been a J, my mom's maiden name, and everything else. Growing up, I always felt closer to my maternal extended family, especially my grandparents on her side. Most notably my maternal grandfather, Papa, who died when I was 11. He was a World War II veteran who served on the Burma Road, followed up with service in Singapore, Thailand, and Manchuria before he came back to the U.S. to marry my Nana in 1948. He then went on to serve as a diplomat for several years. My mom was born in Colombia in 1958, where he was stationed at the time. Having been brought up in Atlanta at a time when the South became staunchly Republican certainly influenced me further. Of course, in 1996, we hosted the Centennial Olympic Games, which was an incredible experience to live through. Unfortunately, I had only just turned 6 that summer and was starting kindergarten that upcoming fall, so I didn't really realize quite how big of a deal it was at the time. But if you're ever fortunate enough to live in a city that hosts an Olympic Games, it brings a lot of pride to your citizenship. Everywhere I went in summer 1996, USA, USA, USA was everywhere. The first election I voted in was in 2008, the fall after I turned 18. I have always voted Republican because I believe we live in the greatest country in the world. I think that Republican values are more in line with that stance, thus why it's the party that's overwhelmingly favored by the military and our veterans. Why do I think we live in the greatest country in the world? Well, number one, I think this is the greatest country in the world because we have the largest economy in the world, which grew to that in half a century. Even though there are those who may be poor, their standard of living is well above what is considered average in many parts of the world. We as Americans have created the highest standard of living in the world, and you can be anything you want to be in this country. Number two, I think this is the greatest country in the world because we have the strongest military in the world that's been victorious in 2 world wars. And our country is only free because the military continues to protect it. Number three, I think this is the greatest country in the world because we have the best university system in the world. Number four, I think this is the greatest country in the world because we have the greatest health care that money can buy. How affordable it is an entirely different debate. But there's no questioning we live in a country that has the best doctors, the best medical schools, the best hospitals, and the world's largest pharmaceutical industry to top it all off. And last but not least, number five, I think this is the best country in the world because we're home to the best athletes in the world. At every Olympic Games, the United States Olympic team consistently takes home at or near the top of every medal count. Maybe not so much the Winter Olympics, but certainly the Summer Olympics, containing the sports that far more countries send their best to compete in. So in summary, those are the 5 reasons why I'm proud to be an American. As a Republican, I believe in preserving that. I believe in free market capitalism. I vote Republican because I support our military and our law enforcement, who protect us abroad and domestically. I vote Republican because I believe in marriage, and that includes gay marriage, that children need to have 2 full-time parents raising them, and that welfare programs which incentivize single motherhood and are destructive for our society, study after study after study has shown. I vote Republican because I'm true to our founders' belief that we were founded, that we were set up as a democracy within a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. The exact words of the Americans' Creed. I vote Republican because I believe diversity is what makes America great. And I'm glad knowing that citizens of other countries may envy us. I support them wanting to come here to live the American dream as just about all of our ancestors did too. But there is a legal and an illegal / right and wrong way in which to do it. And last, I'm a Republican because I'm pro-Second Amendment. Between conservative or libertarian, I'm more libertarian. Being raised Catholic, I was much more conservative growing up, particularly pro-life and pro-traditional marriage, but I've since relaxed those views. I think that George Carlin really said it best when he said in reference to Catholic ideology, "Who has less abortions than homosexuals?" I practically died laughing the very first time I heard that. And I agree, even if I live to be 100 years old, there are certain things in my life I will never experience. The first is having a menstrual cycle. The second is being pregnant for 9 months. And the third is labor pains and giving birth to a child. I'm not a woman, and I don't think I have a right to debate this issue with those who do experience this. Regarding marriage, religious organizations are reserved the right to acknowledge marriage as only between a man and a woman. But marriage in modern society is as much of a legal agreement between 2 people. Our founders believed in separation of church and state. As someone who's pro-military, I acknowledge that there have been millions of gays and lesbians this past century who have served our country in every major war. I agree that whoever they love should be allowed to have the same benefits of a military spouse, regardless of orientation. Not only am I in support of the full legalization of marijuana, but I can honestly say that I really don't support the war on drugs at all anymore. That doesn't mean that I condone using drugs, but what has it accomplished? Prohibition in the 1920s was a complete failure. Some of my favorite people who I enjoy listening to, from economists to political commentators, Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, Larry Elder, John Stossel, are all libertarians who would agree with all the above. It's about what we see fit between the role of government and the economy which should define our ideology. Nothing more. I feel they present the most compelling case studies and can destroy any liberal who wants to sit down with them in a debate in a heartbeat. So there you have it, a general overview of where I stand in terms of my views and party affiliation going forward from here on out. Once again, this is just what I'm considering my pilot, but this will lay the groundwork for what much of my vlogging will entail going forward. Until next time, I'm Eric Cochran with the Cochran Doctrine.